And Denny, thanks for joining us. Um, Denny and I first met actually last July at Cooperstown during induction weekend. I was walking around with my brother-in-law and saw Denny signing autographs and caught him in a brief period where he had a few minutes to chat. We talked. I thought, man, he's got a great story. He'd be a great guest for us. So worked on it and glad it's worked out that he can join us tonight. Obviously, yeah, we Joe mentioned his 31-6 record in 1968, and it's interesting you hear sports talk shows talk about unbreakable records, and I would have to think that that is one of the unbreakable records, especially the way starting pitching is being used these days. So, uh, in addition to his two Cy Young Awards and AL MVP, started an All-Star game, he probably has one of the most unbreakable records in sports today. Um, as most people know, off the field, Denny was known for his outspoken comments on a variety of topics. He's never short of an opinion, which we'll see tonight, I'm sure. He also became an accomplished organist, played Vegas, was on the Ed Sullivan Show, was a talented bowler, and also a scratch golfer. Um, he also became a pilot, I think, was that during your playing days or after, Denny?
I started flying in 1968.
So he was flying his plane while he was playing. He also knew Arnold Palmer back then. Mike McCormick, who started IMG, the talent agency, was an agent for both Palmer and Denny. Uh, Post-career, Denny's had a bunch of talk shows, wrote a regular column for a while. A rarity for an athlete. He was on the cover of both Time and Sports Illustrated. And his autobiography, which I'd highly recommend, he was selling a bunch of them in Cooperstown. It's entitled I Told You I Wasn't Perfect, which describes his turbulent life and times in honest and transparent fashion. I honestly, Denny, I don't know why it's not the subject of a 30 for 30 on ESPN. It would be a classic 30 for 30 or a Hollywood movie. But with apologies to Dos Equis ad campaign about the most interesting man in the world. I think we have the most interesting man in baseball tonight. So let's get started chatting with Denny, and I'll shut up. But Denny, I think it's always fun to find out how star athletes fell in love with their sport. How did you get started in baseball, and how did
Well,
that?
let me say this. I could be in love with it a whole lot more if I ever made the money that they're making today.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
it's kind of outrageous, incredible, and I do not uh, uh, think it's wrong for them to be making this kind of money. I think it's totally right. We were beat out of so much money when we played. Nothing was ever for the players. Everything was for the owners. Uh, and maybe at that time, rightfully so. But of course, we eventually, based upon Kurt Flood, and Kurt, people don't remember this, but Kurt lost his lawsuit, and then we picked everything up, and we filed a lawsuit, and then, of course, the rest is history. But it was quite a challenge at that point in time because the owners never thought they would ever have to settle. They thought they were just locked in cement, and if you look at the string of people who were released shortly thereafter, you'll see who the guys were that were really active. And all these kids today, I'm a little upset from time to time when they talk about all of the great things going on in their life, and that's fine. But you know what? It'd be nice to hear them say, and we want to thank these guys from the 50s and 40s and 60s and 70s for the things they put in place for us. Because boy, I tell you what, when you're in the major leagues and you only make $7,000 a year, you heard that right, $7,000 a year, traveling to Chicago, L.A., New York, anywhere in the country as baseball was being played. Those are big sacrifices. Of course, those are the sports we wanted to play, and we wanted to play well. And but it'd be nice to have somebody say thanks. But it's a different breed. It's a different generation. I understand all that, but and the game I think today is it's got putting a man on second base in the 10th inning. I mean, who ever heard of such a childish thing? I mean, it's so stupid. I mean, I don't get it. I just don't get it. But they want to shorten up the game. Well, why don't we only play 5 innings? Wouldn't that be better than playing 10 innings, putting the guy on second base? I mean, if they want to shorten up the game, there's other ways of doing it, and you don't have to necessarily lose the adrenaline, and you don't have to use the challenges. I mean, it's crazy. I wonder every day you wake up and I read the New York papers and I look to see what crazy thing. I mean, because I think they're smoking dope in the commissioner's office from time to time. I think that's where these ideas are coming from. So we'll wait and see what happens over the next couple of years. But I know this commissioner is going to be there till at least 1929. And if you're making $20 million a year, I want to stay there as long as I can too.
So, Denny, you grew up around Chicago, right? And
I
did your
did. Beautiful Chicago. Grew up in Chicago until I was about 7 or 8 years old. And then we moved to a city called Markham, Illinois, which was about 30 miles south of the city of Chicago. And that's eventually where I met my wife, Sharon Boudreau, who was the daughter of Lou Boudreau, the Hall of Famer. Best thing that ever happened to me in my life was Sharon. We had four great kids, and today we've got, well, I have currently in possession, to say the least, I got 12 granddaughters, believe it
wow.
or not. 12 granddaughters, one grandson, and now I just had my first great grandson. And I promise you one thing, he is going to be a left-hander and he's going to throw strikes. And when he turns 18, he's got 25 million waiting on him. So we're going to make sure he can throw a fastball and a little slider at the age of 18, and we'll have one ready.
So, who discovered you? Who was the scout that found Denny McLain?
There was actually the priest. I went to Mount Carmel High School in Chicago, and it's a great big football school at the time. School basketball and football, and baseball was like most schools was at the bottom of the pack. And he saw me. My dad took me to Mount Carmel High School for a tryout, and the priest said, "I heard something about your son. I'd like to see him throw. If he throws as well as I was told, then we'll give him a 4 year scholarship ride." Well, I mean, we couldn't get to Mount Carmel quick enough. And we went down there. I threw for about 25, 30 minutes. And at the end of the session, Father Austin Coop was his name. Father Coop went over, shook my hand. He says, "You're with us for the next 4 years, young man. I hope you can read and write." So
Well,
that's the way it started. And had a great time at Mount Carmel. As a matter of fact, just to bring everybody up to speed, when I was 18 in March back then, and I can tell you that I was offered the first scholarship to Notre Dame for baseball, and I was in the process of interviewing scouts at the time. Now my dad had died. My dad died at 36 years old. He had a heart attack, for God's sakes. And so we're interviewing these teams, the Cubs, the Sox, Milwaukee. We interviewed 8 or 10 teams. And the last one we interviewed was actually the Chicago White Sox. All of them, and you'll appreciate this, to show you how things were fixed back then. There wasn't one scout or one general manager came to the house that did not have a check with them for $17,500. All 8 teams had the same check. I mean, kind of price fixing, I would call it. So the last guys that were there were, well, first of all, the Yankees were the next to the last. And they drove up in a big black Cadillac. They had 3 or 4 former players there. It was a great, I mean, the Yankees. I mean, I wanted to play with Mickey Mantle. That was my dream. He was my idol. And lo and behold, the Yankee scout came in and he said, did the whole dog and pony show for us, told us what a great organization. Well, hell, we knew how great they were. They've been winning every year. And my mother grabbed me and said, "I want to talk to Denny in the kitchen a minute." Now, our whole house was only 800 square feet. So all we had to do was take 2 steps and we were in the kitchen. So we walked into the kitchen and my mother said, "Don't you dare take the check." I said, "Why? I mean, it's the same check, Mom." And she said, "Did you see his shoes?" I said, "Hell no, I didn't see his shoes. What am I looking at his shoes for?" She says, "He's got a hole in his shoes. Do you think the check is good if he can't afford a good pair of shoes?" I said, "What, Mom? What are you talking about? He's got to have better shoes." She said, "No, you're not taking his check." I said, "All right." So the White Sox were next, and the first thing I looked at when the White Sox sat down were their shoes, and lo and behold, everybody had good shoes on, and we wound up taking their check for $17,500. So that's how I got to the White Sox, and then made some trips in the minor leagues a short time. I was in the minor leagues a little less than a year, and they had me in a number of places: Harlan, Kentucky, Des Moines, not Des Moines, Iowa, but Clinton, Iowa. Where else? Knoxville, Tennessee, Duluth, Minnesota. And then Syracuse, New York. So I was in 6 or 7 cities inside of the year. And then, of course, they took me up to Detroit in '63. And as they say, the rest is history. Because the guy that I ran into then, the guy who liked me in spring training, almost took me up with him in '63, was Charlie Dressen, who was our manager. And Charlie wanted to take me, but they didn't have room on the roster. And about a couple of months later, then of course I was in Detroit. But it was and you know what? When I look back on it, I really needed those 5 or 6 other cities to travel, getting into the suitcase deal and the whole thing. I mean, that was very tedious for especially somebody from Chicago who had never packed a bag in his life. I mean, I had never been out of the city of Chicago except for Markham, where we had moved to. So I learned an awful lot of things inside of a year. And all of a sudden, you're pitching in some of the finest baseball parks in the country. You're meeting people that you can't believe. As a matter of fact, when I got to Detroit, this is a great story. When we got to Detroit, I walked out. This is the first day. I walked out to the bench, and sitting on the bench was Rocky Colavito and Al Kaline, the two of them. They had gone out early that afternoon to work out, and the two of them were sitting there wiping themselves off from sweat and what have you. And it was cold, very, very cold, as it would be in Detroit in September. And Rocky Colavito said to me, "Where's your jacket?" He says, "It's cold here. Pitcher's got to have a jacket." I said, the clubhouse man said he ran out of jackets. He says, "Well, that's BS. Nobody ever runs out of jackets, for God's sakes." He says, "Here, take mine. You take mine because I don't need it anymore. I'm going someplace else." And he knew that day somebody had told him in the front office that he was going. I think he went to Chicago from there, and then became a star there too. Rocky just died just recently too, by the way. He had diabetes. It ate him alive. But what a gentleman. Mrs. Colavito is the same way. They were quite a pair, and they were fun to be around. But Rocky, I mean, I'm on the bench in the major leagues, 60 seconds, and I've got one of the great superstars at the time handing me a jacket and saying, "Here, you're going to need this. I don't." I mean, that was kind of a nice way to start a trip into big leagues.
Well, the late 60s Tigers became one of the best teams in all of baseball,
Oh, yeah.
obviously winning in '68, and you guys just missed a couple other years. But could you chat briefly about some of your teammates who were obviously very famous? Al Kaline, Bill Freehan was your catcher, Willie Horton, Norm Cash. What are your memories of some of those guys?
Well, we had a good bunch of guys. I mean, we had played together now right through 1967. I got there in '63. And so through '67, we had played together. We should have won it in '67, but I got hurt sometime in the middle of August, and I couldn't pitch anymore. I'd already won 17 games that year, but I couldn't pitch anymore. I hurt my foot, and I did it myself. There's these stories going around that the mob stepped on my foot. The mob pushed me down a flight of stairs. The mob did this. The mob. No, there was no mob. And the bottom line was I got mad because I got hit up real bad that afternoon, went into the locker, and I kicked my leg so hard 4 or 5 times that I cut open my ankle. And the rest, as they say, is history because then I couldn't walk. I didn't realize how bad it was until the next day when I called, I mean, to say the least, to tell them exactly how it happened was, oh God, I couldn't believe it. And I got my butt eaten out like you can't believe by the manager at that time, Charlie Dressen. So temper's a terrible thing. And when you're 18, I don't think you really realize how much damage you can do to yourself. But that's how things started in Chicago or with Detroit. The the Calamito thing, the K-line thing. Al was a little bit tougher than most players. Al was the first moment he got to Detroit, he was a superstar. I mean, he was it. He was the whole franchise. And had they just made a couple of moves for pitchers at that time, I probably would not have got to the big leagues for at least another year or two, if ever. But with the moves they were making, it was inevitable that I was going to get there way ahead of any schedule that I ever thought about because we were planning on going back to Syracuse, New York. We had such a good time there, and we were only there 2 weeks. But it's amazing what you learn about yourself. And I said that every day I woke up in the big leagues, every day was a new learning trick, a new page of the book. And that's what people have to realize. When you wake up the next day, you're looking forward to something good happening that day. And even if it's not bad, at least it's a learning experience.
Well, your battery mate Bill Freehan and you
Yep.
had a lot of wins together. What was he like to work with?
Bill was the best catcher I ever had in my life. Bill was a professional. I mean, a professional and a half. I called him the professor because he knew everybody's history with you. He knew how hard the guy hit the ball the last time he played. And it may have been months earlier. And Bill would remember everything. Well, he would say, Tony Oliva, he says, you got to keep the ball away. You remember the last time he hit a home run off you because the ball was down and away. We got to stay away from that. And he would go over everything and everybody all the time. So he was complete. But the best part about Bill was he was a teamer. I mean, he kept that team together. He was a kind of guy. He was a great big star at the University of Michigan too. He was a tight end, so he had some major accomplishments at Michigan also. But his best, as far as I'm concerned, the best thing he ever did was be a catcher for the Tigers, and he could help guys. I mean, it was unusual back then for players to really assist other players because the coaches had their jobs, they had their positions, they had things they needed to do themselves, and we saw it a lot because of Freehand. And then, of course, we had Norm Cash at first base, one of the great Emmett Kellys, the clowns in baseball. I can tell you that Norman was just one of the funniest guys in the world. One of my managers, Mayo Smith, when those two got on the mound and I was pitching, it was like Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, for God's sake, standing on the mound. And lo and behold, we got a ball game one day. I walked the first guy, hit the second guy, and an error at third base, bases loaded, nobody out. Norm Cash comes in and says to me, he said, "You think we might wrap this up by 4 o'clock?" He said, I got a lady I'm meeting at 4:30. I need to get out of here." So I said, well, let me get this under control, Norm. And just as I said that, here came Mayo Smith, the manager. So Mayo walks out as typical, very slow way. He was from the South, so he walked even slower than most and gets onto the mound. He says, "Give me the ball. I'm going to bring somebody else in." I said, "My God, I've only thrown 15 pitches. You got to let me pitch. Come on, Mayo." He says, "No, no, no, no." He said, "I'm going to take you out." I said, "I'm not giving you the ball. How are you going to take me out?" He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Give me the ball." I said, "I'm not giving you the ball." I said, "I want to pitch to one more hitter." He said, Guess who's hitting?" I said, "Boog Powell." He said, "He owns you. He owns your children. He owns your wife. He owns everybody in your family." I said, "That's okay. That's all right. I got it covered." And he said, "Well, how have you got it covered?" I said, "You just stand there and watch." So after a big argument, he turns to Freehand. He says, "Bill, be level with me. Tell me the truth. How is his stuff today?" Freehand looked him right between the eyes and says, "How the hell would I know how his stuff is? For Christ's sake, I haven't caught a goddamn thing yet." So that was some of the humor that went on with our ball club. By the way, by the time Mayo got back to the dugout at third base, I thrown the next pitch right where I wanted to, right down the middle, belt high. Yeah, sure I did. And line drive, I caught the ball through the second, through. Then they threw the first base. We had a triple play. And I told Mayo, I said, "If you ever come out to get me again," I says, "I will throw the ball at you." And I don't think he came out 5 times the rest of my career.
Smart man. So the 68 World Series, one of the best of all time, and at 68, if I'm not mistaken, was the last year before division. So it was a
Yeah, there was.
the two pennant winners. You guys end up going 7 games with Bob Gibson and the Cardinals. How about a couple memories from that series? What stands out?
Well, you know what? We knew from the beginning we were going to win it. I mean, it was just a foregone conclusion we were going to win it, despite being down 3-1. We knew there's no pitcher in America that could beat us 3 times in a week. We knew that. We gave Gibson his due. He had good stuff, no question about it. There was like 20 guys in the big leagues with that kind of stuff. I mean, when you start talking about the guys, Sam McDowell, Sonny Siebert, guys like that, Stottlemyre, guys like that, they all had great, great, great stuff. And you just had to figure out a way to beat them, and we certainly did. But it got a little scary. It did. I'll admit it. And but Mickey Lolich came through like a star, and he did some things in those 3 games that he pitched, which were extraordinary from point A to point B. And he was just a superstar during that World Series.
So it's just to switch topics a bit. Some people might have not caught this at the beginning, but
Yeah.
during your playing days, you also were an accomplished organist. Who taught you the organ, and how did you get good enough to get on Ed Sullivan and play in Vegas?
Well, my dad was a piano organ player also. He's the one that started me on the piano, and then I moved on to the organ and continued that for God. I still play, and so I've had a wonderful time with it. It made me a lot of money. It made me money that I didn't make in baseball. So it was also an income thing for me. I mean, I don't know what I would have done had I not had that talent, because it's sure paid a lot of bills over the years. And but it's something I enjoyed. I mean, I love playing the piano organ. I just love it. And and plus it's a good conversational piece. You know, you're at a restaurant or something, somebody sees you, and you go and you play a couple of tunes, have a couple of good ideas, and just have a good time. I mean, it really was. It was something. Don't ask me how all this happened because I can't explain it. But my dad was a very, very accomplished guy, uh, and he got home a short time after I was born. Don't think anything silly there because he did. My mother was the mother, and my father was the father. So uh, and I had a great father and I had a great mother, and we all went to Catholic schools our entire life. We were brought up in that faith as well as the discipline factor that it had, and my dad always said, "You need a lot of discipline. I don't know where we're going to get it from, but we need some." And he was probably more right than he was wrong.
So you're a premier pitcher, you're an accomplished organist, and sometime in your career you decided, hey, I'm going to be my own pilot and start flying around. How did that come up?
I started flying in '68. Well, what was happening was I was working for the Hammond Organ Piano Company at the time, and Hammond got us a charter airplane so that we could make 70 or 80 dates during the winter time, between the end of the season and spring training. So we had this, I think it was a Navajo, a twin engine Navajo, and we flew all over the country in this airplane. And sometime during this winter of '68, I bought a Learjet, a 23. Why did I buy a Learjet? Because Arnie Palmer had one. That's the only reason I bought it. There was no other reason. And we got that, and that sure made life a lot easier too. And we got from point A to point B a lot quicker at 500 miles an hour rather than 180 miles an hour. So that worked out to our benefit. And of course, I still fly. I don't fly the way I used to, but now that I'm 80, God, I hate using that. I hate to say that. I hate 80. And but it is what it is. And somebody says, well, as long as you wake up on the other side every morning, you should feel good about it. Eh, I don't feel good every day when you wake up at 80. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people possibly listening to the show tonight that know what I mean. There's a number somewhere in there between 70 and 80 that the heave ho or the intensity is starting to drip away. And I'll be the first one to share that because it is dripping away. And I don't mean in a sick way. I'm just saying energy wise. And I'm pretty active. I mean, I work every day, 7 days a week. I work, and my dad once told me that listen, you want to live a long time, have something to do next week. Always have an appointment 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ahead of yourself. He says you'll live a lot longer. So far, he's been right.
So you touched on your wife Sharon being Lou
Right.
Boudreaux's daughter, which just keeps adding to a very interesting story here. What was your father-in-law like, Lou Boudreaux, another Hall of Famer?
After my dad died, that's when I met Lou after my dad had died. And I got to meet Mr. Boudreau, and he was a wonderful man. I will say this emphatically, he took the place of my dad because I was a basket case after I lost my dad. I mean, my dad was so close to me. I mean, every time somebody passed gas, we had to look at each other to find out if one was the other. So it was one of those kinds of relationships. And my mom was great. I had a great mother. Um, she died about 10, 12 years ago. And she just, and after my dad died, I was only 13 when he died. My mom went back to school and got her accounting degree and then later went to work for the Jewel Tea Company in Chicago and was one of the main accountants with the Jewel Tea Company. That's how we survived. And of course, I was playing keyboards, actually organ. I was playing organ in several small clubs around the city of Chicago. So we managed to make a little bit of money. And at the age of 14, I was running numbers for my barber. I didn't even know what numbers were, for God's sakes, at one time. But I quickly learned when I knew I was getting a couple bucks every week.
So back to your right arm, which gave you two Cy Young awards, but after the '69 season, the flame kind of went out of your career. Is that when the arm trouble really
Yeah,
started?
yeah. My rotator cuff, I started to started tearing it in 1966. That's when the first trouble came up on the horizon. 67, it got worse. 68, I took about 25 to 30 cortisone shots just to make my starts all the time. And then by the end of the 69 season, I knew my longevity wasn't going to be there because even today, if you met me for the first time and we shook hands, I have to use my left hand to lift up my right hand to shake hands. So
Mhm.
that's how badly I tore the rotator cuff, and
Did,
never
did
got
you
it.
have surgery? Surgery
Pardon
on
me?
it? Did you ever have
Ne-
surgery?
No, I never had surgery. It finally went. It went big time in the early '90s, and then at that point in time, I'm too old to get more operations. I mean, I just didn't want any more. I had enough. Besides knees and ankles and shoulders and every other damn thing. I had had enough, and then I heard this story that if you get too many operations, you have a more likelihood to die. Well, I'm 80. I'm proving that wrong at this point in time, and I hope it continues because I these 12 granddaughters of mine keep me busy, keep me entertained, and it's just a wonderful thing to sit down with dinner with those 12 crazy people. And by the way, five of them are engineers.
Wow.
Yeah, my son owns an engineering company in Australia, and five of them work for him as an engineer. So I'm very proud of my girls. They've really done well.
Another interesting aspect of your career was that you played for Ted Williams. Well, you got
Oh
traded to the
God.
Senators, and what was Williams like? A hitter trying to deal with a pitcher. What was that relationship?
He was King Farouk. That's who he was. If you don't believe him, ask him. Listen, there isn't anything that could make you madder than Ted Williams. He was stern. He was nasty. I can't tell you. I know we probably have most of a male audience, but if there's one woman here, don't want to say what his starting line was when he got mad at people. But he had a line of about 12 or 14 words. and none of the words were the or that or it. They were all started with a CS or an F, and you can take it from there. Yes. And he was just nasty as hell. And by the way, the only reason he took that job in Washington was because Bob Short, who owned the Washington Senators, told Ted when they're in wined and dined him, and told Ted, listen, if you do me a favor, if you decide that you would want to manage, I can get you your Sears contract back for the rest of your life. And that's the reason why he took the job. He got 250,000 a year plus bonuses, and got his job back with the Sears company. But I'll tell you one quick story to give you an idea of his personality and his character. We Ted wrote a book in the middle of the season in '71, I think it was. And before he gave the books out on this Friday night, he told everybody, "You better read the book. There's going to be a Q&A next Friday, so you got a whole week to read this book, and you better learn something about pitching and hitting and running the bases and doing all the good things that a player does, because we stink, we suck, we need to play better." So after that wonderful uprising suite of sweet words, he sends us all home to read the book, and nobody read the book, to be honest with you. And so all I'm hoping for, I'm rooming with a guy named Dick Billings from Michigan here. He was Ted Williams made him my catcher. He was my catcher when I was with Washington. How he how he came up with that, we'll never know. And to make a long story short, uh, he says to the group before he sends everybody out to practice, he says, "Now listen, next Friday is going to come quick. You better read this book." So he calls the meeting in a week later. We're all sitting on the bench. It's 110 degrees. It's Washington, D.C., folks. It's 110 in the shade. And Ted is doing one of these long dissertations about what a great hitter he was, how he practiced every day. And I'll guarantee you he was that good. So he finally said at the end of the entire thing, my roommate, not Euler, but Dick Billings is sitting next to me, and Dick says, "I'm going to ask him a question." I said, "If you ask him a question, I will have you killed tonight." I said, "Don't you dare ask him a question. He'll go on for another hour, Dick." He says, "No, no, no, I'm going to ask him a question." I said, "Dick, if you do, you're never going to room with me again." I said, "I'm throwing you out of the room when we go back on the road." So Dick raises his hand, and I just knew what this was going to do. And he said, "Ted, Dick Billings over here." And Ted says, "Well, I might have figured you, Dick. I might have figured that you would ask the question. What's the question?" He said, "Ted," he says, "and I've been thinking about this for a week. If I go out tomorrow, Monday or Tuesday next week, and I buy a book on surgery, does that make me a medical surgeon?" You could have heard the bomb drop in LA. I mean to tell you. So what he did was Billings didn't play in a game again for like a month and a half. He punished him and made him run 25 or 30 laps every night out in that damn heat. And I'm going to tell you what, Billings, Billings, I swear, he was trying to get pneumonia. He was trying to get any disease he could find so he didn't have to run 20 times every night in that heat. And God forbid, he didn't find it. But boy, I'll tell you, it's Ted beat him to death. And then he finally got to play at the end of the year. And because he hadn't taken any batting practice, or he looked like Molly Putz out there. He couldn't catch the ball, couldn't throw the ball. I mean, he was just flat ass dead.
So, your baseball career is basically over at this point. And after baseball, you get involved in several business ventures, and some
Yeah.
of them ended in legal troubles. I don't know if you want to touch on some of that. Some of it's true, some of it's hearsay, but you actually did spend some time in prison. What was that all like?
Well, it was a wonderful place to rest. No bullshit. Come on. It was no place to be. And I wasn't at a bad place. I was at a camp. As a matter of fact, you won't believe this one. I was the camp driver. In other words, I drove all over the state of Pennsylvania, picking people up at airports, namely VIPs with the prison system and other systems within the federal system. And I did that for a number of years. I mean, listen, if you're going to have to go, that's the place to go. And The stories that have been created, the BS that's been created with some of these stories, it's just why do people have to extend a story when the story is bad enough? And then they think about other things they want to do and say, and um, I was taught if you don't have anything good to say about somebody, don't say it. But apparently there's a percentage of people that like to say whatever they want to say whenever they want to say it. That's a hell of a way to go through life, taking advantage of other people who are not going to respond. I seldom ever respond to anything. Just because it just doesn't pay, because nobody knows what happened to me. Nobody's got any idea what happened to me. Nobody knows the trick I fell into. Nobody has any idea. One day, maybe I'll get a chance to tell it, but it was just crazy. It was a horrible mistake. If I had to do it all over again, there's one document I would have never signed, and that was their whole case. One lousy document. And not to make a long story any shorter, but that was not a good time at all. And
Well, I
and that,
appreciate your honesty in your book. I told you I wasn't perfect, which is an awesome title for a book, but you don't sugarcoat stuff and you set the story straight. So I think people would love beyond the baseball, all the other stuff you've been involved in reading that book. It would be well worth people's time.
well, yeah, and I would hope because it really is a good story. There's a lot of entertainment in there, a lot of great stories. I owned a steel company and a scrap company at one time. I owned uh, a debit card company at one time with Verizon. So I mean, we did a lot of things. We did a lot of good things, and but people only remember what they think they heard anyway. And there's not much. And now, listen, I mean, I'm 80. What am I supposed to do now? I mean, jump off a bridge? It's I can't swim, so I'm not gonna do the bridge.
Well, one of your post-playing day things, you did get back into baseball for a little while with the Memphis Blues, a minor
I
league team,
did.
a general manager of the Memphis Blues. What was that all about?
That was fun. That was a lot of fun. We were the franchise for the Houston Astros. They sent us a bunch of stiffs that couldn't catch a ground ball, couldn't make a double play, didn't know how to bunt. Sacrifice bunts were out. I mean, it was crazy the stuff that they had when we were there. We had a great time down there. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you how good of a time. We had a great year for attendance. Elvis came out to the games once in a while, and that's what drove our pensions, not pensions, but our attendance. We had a great time. And the great part about it was the people came out thinking Elvis was going to be there every night. I think he was out there 4 or 5 times, maybe 6 times during the year, and he always snuck in. And where he snuck into was I built a saloon slash restaurant over the left field wall in the ballpark in Memphis. And it was a great place. We had a little band out there during the ball game, and I mean, just a great time. It was a real family place to come to. And of course, somebody always screws that up. Somebody shot somebody, and that shut down the saloon. But we had a great time. I mean, all I can tell you, we just had a great time. And my wife was a part of it. My kids were a part of it. We had some trouble during that year. Somebody tried to snatch one of my kids. They finally caught that idiot. But that was scary. That's a very scary time to have somebody chasing one of your kids.
I
Um,
bet.
so, uh, and the interesting thing is when the FBI, they were intimately involved at the time. I used to get home every night when we were playing at home about midnight because I had to pick up the money, do the accounting, and what have you. And as I'm going home this one night, listening to the music on the local radio, and not thinking about anything else. But this is like 2 weeks after this guy tried to grab my daughter, and I had a gun in the car, and I come within a hairpiece, I mean a hairpiece of shooting an FBI agent.
Whew.
Oh, I'm telling you, this guy almost got a bullet up his ass. He was turned the wrong. He was turning. He was turned away from the house. So all I saw was this guy's back, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So instead of just shooting, I yelled. I said, "Don't move! Don't move! Don't move!" And then the agents come out of the tree. God, I think the agents were living in the tree there for a while, and they did a good job though for us there. And they caught that jerk off.
Well, last question. I know there's some people who want to ask a few questions, but the last question I have is you mentioned you're 80 years old now. Isn't that crazy? But what would a 80-year-old Denny McLain tell a 25-year-old Denny McLain if you could tell him something?
Work out, work out as best you can. The money in the game is worth it. Whatever you think you've done, whatever you think today you've done well, do it again tomorrow. Do not take anything for granted and get in as better shape as you can physically and mentally because the game is a mental game. Once you learn how to play it, it's mental. And you got to be able to play every day. And you just got to be, and most important part of this whole thing is you got to be a team player. You must be a team player. The game is so much easier if you use everybody else on your team.
Well, folks, to get the book, you can go right to Denny's website. I am the real Denny McLain. Joe, I think you left out a word there, but it's I am the real
No,
Denny McLain.com.
that's the actual site, Ken. If they click on that, it'll go right to their sites.
Yeah.
Okay.
For those of you who don't have the chat open, open up the chat and the link to Denny's site's there. His book is there, a lot of other merchandise. There's some really good stuff there. So when you get a chance, just click on that link and check out Denny's site.
And by the way, you can also say Denny McLain Facebook. It'll go right there too.
Well,
Uh,
Denny, thanks. Let's ask.
Joe,
Oh,
I'd
some
suggest
questions.
you repeat it because some people who didn't have the chat open might not be able to see that.
But if you
Oh,
open the chat now, you can see it, but I'll read it to you. I mean, you just open the chat and you can just click on the link, but it's IAMDENNY McLain.com. I am DennyMcLain.com. But just open up the chat and you all can see it.
Great.
thank you.
All right. So if anybody has a question, just raise your hand and I'll unmute. You could ask the question to Denny.
By the way, I'm looking for a blonde, 5'2". I could have never said that before Sharon passed on, but
I see that you guys are physically raising your hands. What I really meant was, and this is fine, you could physically raise it, but I mean, you actually go, there's a little thing on the bottom under react where you could raise your hand, but you guys are doing it old school. So look, let's start with Mike. What do you got, Michael?
Hey, Danny,
yes,
great listening to you. You're
thank you.
still very engaging and very energetic. I've met you a couple times at collectible shows, got a couple autographs from you. It's always
Good.
fun here. Um, I've heard that Al, we touched on Al Kaline. I've heard he was a little bit maybe distant, a little tough to get close to. What maybe a little more insight into Al Kaline's personality, how he was as a teammate, as well as
Okay.
a person with the fans.
Um, he had a strained relationship with fans. Al did not like people, and I don't say that grudgingly or nastily. That was Al. His personality did not lend to going to a dinner every night. It didn't lend itself to going to a party or being a part of the party. It just didn't. Al was, and I say this with all the truth in the world, Al Kaline was the best baseball player I ever saw for 7 or 8 years. He never missed a cutoff man. He never missed a hit and run. He never missed a pitch when it had to be met. I mean, the guy really knew how to play the game. And uh, I guess the one thing that I would have liked to seen him do more is work with other players because I think he had a lot to share. But boy, I'll tell you one thing: if you were a 1 or 2 runs down after the sixth inning, seventh inning, you wanted Al Kaline to come up. He was the best hitter I ever saw in the seventh, eighth, and ninth innings. Yeah, I think he's driven in more runs in those last 2 or 3 innings than anybody in the history of the game. The guy knew how to hit the ball, and he knew how to hit it in play. He knew how to knock in a run. He knew how to score a run. And if there's any example, somebody needs an example, go and light up the day I won 30. You can get, if you can find it online, and you'll see what Al did in the eighth and ninth inning of that game. And he's the reason we won number 30 that day. He knocked in, he scored the tying run, and he shouldn't have. He should have never even been close to the play, but he got there somehow. And of course, we won number 30.
Peter Myers, I see your hand is up. You have a question?
Me?
No, Peter Myers?
Yeah. Yes, I had a couple questions for Denny. One
Yeah.
is, who are the toughest batters you faced, and who are the ones that you had no problem with?
Didn't have problem with very many, but the one I did have a problem with, you're not going to believe this either. This is one of those Ripley's thing. It's impossible to believe. There's one guy who had more hits against me than anybody else in the major leagues. Who was the shortstop for the New York Yankees?
Gene Michael?
Gene Michael. He had 50 some hits in his career against me. Now, Gene Michael was like a 200 hitter. And if you put all of his hits together, back to back to back to back, all of them together wouldn't hit the center field wall. But I'm going to tell you, every ball he hit found a hole, or broken bat single, broken bat double. You just wouldn't believe it. And the second guy, it got so bad, I was Boog Powell. I used to, just to get Boog out of the lineup and move the game along a little bit, I used to tell Boog what was coming. I just got tired of walking him and hitting him. I just said, Boog, get ready. And I would just walk him. I'd send him to first base. I mean, Boog made a living off me for a couple of years, and why I'll never know, because he was the kind of hitter that I like Frank Howard. I used to love against Frank Howard to pitch against him. My God, he's 7 foot tall. Who the hell can't strike him out? He's got the biggest strike zone in the world, and Boog had a big one too. But Boog and Michael, I'll never figure out Gene Michael. Never, ever, ever, ever.
Harry Gleason, you have a question? Carrie, you're on mute. Carrie, we can't hear you, so we'll come back to you, Carrie. Mr. Schaefer, you have a question?
Yeah, Denny, you mentioned that you have a grandson might be a pitcher at some point.
Yes.
You had a classic windup, and today obviously that's kind of going the way of the dinosaurs. Do you think pitchers are missing the boat by not using their high leg kick and a full windup? Or
Everybody preaches you pitch with your legs, you pitch with your legs, you pitch with your legs. Well, they've taken the legs away in most of the kids. Most of the kids don't throw with their legs anymore. They're all throwing just with their arm or their shoulder. And what are we seeing? We're seeing more damn injuries than ever before on the mound. Every ball club's got 2 and 3 guys on the disabled list all the time. And that's because they don't know how to use their legs. And if somebody would just come back and do a little old school with them, it would make a big difference, especially in your velocity. And I'll tell you this, just to show you how dramatic that is. In 1968, I struck out 280 guys with my windup. In 68, of course, you may recall, some of you may recall, that they reduced the mound 6 inches. 6 inches, they reduced that mound from 16 inches to 10 inches. The next year, in 1969, and this is hard to believe, I struck out 180, 100 less than in 1968 because the mound was reduced. I didn't have the leg penetration, the leg intensity that I had in 1968. And it made all the difference in the world. It damaged my arm so bad, I don't want to use examples of something nasty, but there were things on my body I couldn't even get to. That's how bad my arm hurt.
Harry, let's try you again. You off mute?
Will be.
Oh, Carrie, you're still on mute. All righty, I'm sorry. Mark Patterson. Mark Patterson, you have a question.
Thank you. Yeah, because I'm from Detroit. Denny, talk about your TV and radio exploits.
Oh
When I
yeah.
came to Detroit, yes, I really like listening to your morning show on WXYTAM.
Oh, thank you very much. I ran that. I think I was on the air for 8 or 9 years, and had a great time. Just one. In fact, we were number two in town, and had a great time. I mean, we did the local stuff, stayed on the local stuff. I had a sidekick that came in every morning and did the sports with me, Eli Zaret, who's a very talented guy. And we went back with the arithmetic recently, figured out how many years we've been on together. Hell, it's been 35 years we've been on the radio together, radio or TV. So we've had a pretty good run, pretty good time, and it's listen. I know I've had a bump. I lost a daughter to a drunken truck driver. I lost my wife, of course, and then I had some trouble. But I'll tell you, I've had a wonderful life. Um, I've had a wonderful life. I think my family would say the same thing. My family has been great. These 12 granddaughters and my other children are just, if you ever wanted a crazy house, my house is the house you want. It's nuts. They are nuts, every one of them, and which kind of fits in with their grandfather.
Michael
Thanks.
Kane, you have a question?
Joe, this is Bruce.
Oh,
Can
Bruce,
you,
sure. Go ahead.
can
have
you
a
hear me
question for me?
okay?
Sure.
First of all, Denny, this is fascinating. Just you are a really, really great guy, and so glad you're participating. Had a couple questions, Denny. First of all, and I don't know if it came up before, the story of Mickey's Mantles number 536 and your involvement with that. And secondly, because I love ballparks so much, how did you like Tiger Stadium compared to some of the other ballparks?
Well, I was never a big fan of Tiger Stadium. That's the old stadium. I like the new stadium. It's gorgeous, just a gorgeous ballpark. But the old Tiger Stadium, uh, I don't know if you've ever gone to Tiger Stadium, the old one.
I have. I have.
Okay. Well, if you recall, if you come in on the right field line, you will smell hot dogs and urine. And I mean, the urine is stronger than the hot dogs. It, and we had every once in a while we had to use that urinal. And remember how long the urinals were? They were like 12, 14 feet long. And and when, and when you went into the urinal, if there was some little silly dilly in there, somebody standing there with this whatever and using the bathroom, you hope, and you'd find one guy. There was always one guy who was looking down the latrine. I don't know what he was looking for. He had one. We all had one. I mean, I don't know what the hell he was looking for. And although I will tell you this, we did have a guy, Ronnie, God, left-handed relief pitcher, Ron. Somebody help me here. Ron pitched in the late 50s, early 60s. Ron relief pitcher. Huh?
Nischwitz?
Yeah, Nischwitz. Ron Nischwitz.
Nischwitz. He pitched for the Denver Bears.
Right. And he also pitched for our organization, Detroit. Ron Nischwitz. I can't believe I'm going to tell this story. I won't tell you the story. I'll give you the punchline. The Ron Nischwitz had do we have any women on this phone? Huh? No women?
We have a few Danny
Just one,
baseball
and I think
fans,
you
so
can take it, Denny.
Okay.
go right
Okay.
ahead.
Well, he had the longest thing anybody's ever seen. It went from his hip to his knee. That's long.
Gee,
I mean, I don't even know how he packed it. I really don't. I never looked. So, but the first time I ever noticed it was when I had to use the latrine on the first base side because I got stuck in traffic, just wanted to get to a bathroom, and there, there was Nischwitz, and I'm telling you, he could have sold tickets. I mean, that's how it was. I swear to you, it was as long as a K-55 bat.
Hey, Denny, go back to that grooving that pitch to Mickey Mantle. How did that come about?
Well, Mickey was my idol growing up. There was nobody I loved more in my sports life than Mickey Mantle. I wanted to play when I was in high school. I played center field or shortstop. I was a switch hitter in high school. I mean, I really thought I was going to play center field for the Detroit Tigers. I really did. There was no question in my mind that that's where I was going to be in Detroit. And of course, that wasn't to be. In fact, they never even gave me a chance to take batting practice when I first got there. It was pitch or go home. So later on in my career, 1968, Mickey's coming up for the last time in Tiger Stadium. And I've got a 6-1 lead against the Yankees. Mel Stottlemyre started the game against me. And we hit him pretty good, knocked him out of the game. And when Mickey came up in the eighth inning, 2 outs, nobody on, in a 6-1 lead, I yelled down to Mickey, "Hey, how are you today?" And he looked at me like he had looked at the deer standing in the middle of the highway. I said, "No, everything's good. Everything's fine. Just be ready." And the next thing I know, I throw my first pitch. The ball's on an arc, 60 miles an hour on an arc. He takes it for strike one. And I yelled down again to him. I said, "Hey, are you playing with me or not? What are we doing here?" And Jim Price was the catcher at the time, who was probably kind of a cement blockhead a little bit. He shouldn't have been a catcher. He should have been a mason. And you guys will figure that one out later. And Price starts to come out to the mound. And I said, "Listen, tell Mantle, and I'm telling you, Jim, tell Mantle to be ready. I'm going to groove one for him. I want him to get ahead of Jimmy Fox. He needs one more. Don't you understand?" I said, "Jim, by the way, the only way you and I are getting in the Hall of Fame is if Mantle hits this home run and the three of us go in as a trio." I said, "You get it? You got it?" He said, "No, I'm not telling, I'm not going to cheat." I said, "My ass, you're not going to cheat. You're going to cheat." I said, "By the way, Jim, he can't hit a 5-run homer. Do you know that? I know you're from Pennsylvania, and I know that's a tough place to come from." I said, "But he can't hit a 5-run homer." So Mantle steps back in the box. I throw another 60-mile-an-hour fastball on an arc. Strike two. Now I'm confused. Now I don't know what the hell to do. So I yelled down to Mantle again. I said, "Where the hell do you want to pitch?" So he puts his hand down right around his inside knees near home plate. And I throw the next pitch 60 miles an hour again. And he hits it 15 miles. He hit it into the streets in Detroit. So it's still strike two. So now I yell at him. I said, "Just be ready, would you please?" Now we got the whole ballpark looking. I mean, I know we're going to get some heat from the commissioner's office. I mean, we're just doing our thing with a 5-run lead. So I throw the next pitch and he hits it 19 miles. I mean, he crushed it over the light towers and everything else. And it was just a golden moment for me. Everybody saluted him. Everybody touched him. Everybody congratulated him and everything. Well, the kicker is Joe Pepitone, Greasy Joe, was the next hitter. So Greasy come up and he yells at me. He says, "Hey, I want one of them damn things too. Make sure I get one. I'm your friend. I'm going to be here next year." He isn't. "I'll help you next year. I'll make sure you get me out when the things are tough." I said, "You're lying to me, Joe." And I said, "I don't need help." So Joe backs off a little bit and he's, "No, just throw that pitch right there." And he keeps pointing out right over in the middle of the plate. And I throw him. At this point in time, he's got me so mad because everybody in the park is now watching. So there's no surprise now. No, nothing, no surprise. So I throw the best fastball I've thrown all day. I mean, well near 100, right at 100. And I knock him down on his ass. He looked like a whale that had just been beached. And he's scrambling in the dirt, he's still trying to get out of the way. And the ball's been back to me by that time. So now he's screaming at me, calling me a mother this and a mother that and a CS this and a this and a this. "You almost killed me, God damn it. You almost killed me. You almost killed me. Do you realize you almost killed me?" His bat went up to third base line. His hat went up to first base line. And here's the best part. We didn't know he had a toupee. Nobody knew he had a toupee. When the cap went off, all of a sudden the toupee came off about halfway. and the toupee was blowing in the wind. Just think about that. And the song was out, Blowing in the Wind. We had so much fun with that song and those people and those Yankees. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And the two more pitches, we struck them out. Three more pitches, and we struck them out. And I told him, I said, "Don't you ever come back. Don't you ever beg again. Get up there like a man." And he finally walked away, and that was it. We won the ball game 6-2.
Well, I'm sure there was the last time Greasy Joe asked you to groove one to him. So,
Yeah, well, I got to play against him next year too. The next year,
Oh.
and the first time up in Yankee Stadium, he says, "Give me one of them." I said, "Up your ass, up one of them. I'm got you. Just calm down." So Joe was easy to get out, by the way.
Michael King, you've been patient for a while with your hands up. You have a question.
Yes, Denny, thanks very much for this. It's very entertaining. Really enjoyed it. Just want to ask you about a current player, Paul Skeens. What do you think of Paul?
Got great stuff. Let's hope they keep him healthy. Let's make sure they get him in great shape, especially his arm. They got to give him exercises to strengthen the arm. And I used to, in the wintertime, until I got hurt badly, I used to bowl during the winter. I did a lot of bowling. I used to bowl 100 lines a day during the winter. And that's something that he should think about, 40, 50, 60 lines a day, every day. And that will strengthen the arm. It'll give him much better velocity if he's got pretty good velocity now. But you know what? You never have enough velocity. You never do. And the more you can pick up, even if it's just 2 or 3 miles an hour more, makes a big difference.
I don't see any other hands up. Danny, let me ask you a question. So you already commented on how much you don't like the ghost runner at second base and extra innings.
Yeah.
A lot has changed in the game of baseball since you hung up the cleats till now. Overall, what are your impressions on how baseball has evolved from the day you retired until now, positive or negative?
Well, I don't like a couple of things that they're doing. Most of the things are things that really don't matter. But I would like to see this clock for the pitchers taken away. Listen, you've got young kids up here, 18, 20 years old, 25 years old. They've never pitched under these circumstances before. They've never pitched in the tension that a major league game calls. And I'm just telling you, 18 or 20 seconds is not enough time for a pitcher when he's in trouble. That's what I like to see. I'd like to, if they want this damn clock, and this commissioner's in love with the clocks. If he wants that clock, then extend the clock when a pitcher's in trouble. If a guy gets on, extend it 5 or 10 seconds. That I would have little problem with. But you got to give the pitcher more time because I don't want guys just to throw a pitch to throw a pitch. What I want to do is have these guys learn how to pitch. A lot of these kids just go out there and whatever pitch they figured they were going to throw, they throw at that point in time with no thinking behind it at all. And you know what? The games aren't that much shorter. They're dramatically about pretty close to each other. And if you think a few seconds means anything, well, then I think you're smoking the same thing the commissioner is.
Here.
And you had some conflicts with writers and broadcasters. You got along with some and not others, but what were they like in Detroit? Ernie Harwell's a legend as a broadcaster, and I know Joe Falls was a columnist there. What'd you think of those two?
Joe was a complete horse's ass. We had two guys there, Joe Falls and a guy named Pete Waldmeyer. Both of them would go out of their way to create stories. Both of them would go out of their way and come out of right field with stories that, where the hell did that come from? It's like when I got suspended. Just think about this. We had a whole team cheating, getting signs, right? For a couple, 2, 3, 4 years, right? That just happened with the Houston baseball team. And nobody got punished. Nobody got punished except the manager had to sit out a year. And we now have this guy. We got him now. And here's my point. If you're going to punish him, punish him. When I got punished, I threw a bottle of water on a writer. A bottle of water, not urine, not whiskey, not anything other than water. And I got suspended for half a season. Think about that. A half a season. And the writer, one of the two writers who got the water, thought it was the greatest thing that ever happened to him because it made all the papers. and now he became a local star, a local legend, he called himself. Jim Hawkins is his name. And he was great. But then we had an older guy who was, I think he was like 200 years old, Watson Spostra, whose grandson, by the way, is the coach for the Miami Heat.
How about Ernie Harwell?
Ernie was a great man, a complete gentleman. Some players had some chips on their shoulder with Ernie. One of the things was Ernie was so much in the middle, he seldom would say 2-4-6-8. Who do we appreciate? Go Tigers, go Tigers. He wasn't one of those guys. He wasn't Jack Brickhouse in Chicago. He wasn't the guy with the Los Angeles Dodgers, those guys. He wasn't a cheer guy. But he was a matter of fact, and then he would do his thing. Well, there's a couple folks from Muskegon today enjoying the ball game, enjoying the doubleheader, and enjoying the first game right now. So he would do his shtick a little bit, but wasn't the Jack Brickhouse or any of the other guys, Ray Lane, who we had in Detroit for a long time. That type of guy. We never had that guy. Then we did get that guy, and then of course we had fist fights in the broadcast booth. I don't know if you guys know that, but a year ago, September, we had two guys in the press box had a fist fight. How about that? Especially when your club's going bad, that's not a bad idea.
Francis, you have a question? I'm sorry, Ken.
Well, it's after 10 in Detroit, so maybe we should let Denny go. But
Well, I think Francis been really fast question from Francis.
Okay.
Been waiting for a while, so Francis.
Okay, I appreciate it. I hope this will be a short one. The mention of Paul Skeens a little earlier with the velocity and building velocity. You changed speeds when you pitched, and most pitchers did, I guess. How do you feel about the fact that nowadays it seems everybody just wants to throw the ball 100 miles an hour rather than change speeds?
Well, let me give you a fact that you won't believe. I threw 80% fastballs every game I pitched. 80% fastballs. I had a fastball that rose. It rose all the time. If I threw it at the knees, it rose. If I threw it at the breast area, it rose. So God gave me the pitch. I mean, I don't know where it came from, but it worked. But there's nothing like a good fastball. Nothing. It gets there quick. And if you're not a good hitter, you're just not going to get on. You're not going to get on top of it. But the game today is a little bit different. I think that they'll start making a couple more improvements, but they got to stop the nickel dime BS. Forget the clown set. Forget the guy running on second base. Let's play baseball. Baseball is such a good game by itself. You don't need. Listen, there's one thing that draws people to a ballpark, and what is that? Winning, winning, winning. If you can't win, well, you got to think of other things to get people to the park. But if you can win, you're going to have people like the Dodgers and the Cubs. Even the Cubs, when they're losing their worst thing, they were able to develop a trademark. They were able to develop a baseball team. Win, lose, or draw, they had people in the ballpark. That's what baseball teams, they've lost sight of what the game's all about.
Well said, Denny. So I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Denny, I want to thank you very much for your time. This was very entertaining, very great stories. I told you I wasn't perfect as the name of the book. I pasted the chat in the chat again, the website, IamDennyMcLain.com, where you could access to buy that book and other merchandise by Denny. Again, thank you, Ken, for your excellent officiating of this and your interviewing. And once again, thank you, Denny, and thank you all for coming tonight.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. You guys have a great day. And listen, how's your weather out there?
Not so bad. We had some snow and some bitter cold, but it's starting to warm up. It's a balmy 41 degrees right here.
Yeah, we had a high today of four or five.
Wow.
You can have it. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you guys stay safe. You hear?
All right. Thanks, Denny.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Denny. Thank
Take
everyone.
care. Bye-bye.